do a video about my trans customers, just because I know a lot of people in parts of the world have never even met or interacted with a trans person, and I think that is a large part of the current unfortunate transphobia that the right wing is capitalizing on in our country, the U.S. of course. So I was going to go ahead and start off with the person who I had the longest conversation with, and that would be Terry. Terry is a trans woman, and she was visiting, I believe, from Chicago. I remember she was a librarian, and what I remember about her was she was such a wonderful, intelligent, nice-seeming person. And we talked about a couple of other things. I remember she helped me with definitions of a couple of words where I was like, I need to look these things up later. And it's just like she's so knowledgeable. She just knew that stuff. And I think that's part of being somebody who works at a library and being very, knowledge. Library is a place where all kinds of knowledge is accessible to you if you only know where to look. But I think a good amount of the conversation was about how she had come to the Bay Area to get her gender affirming care, because we have a lot of doctors here who specialize in it. And so she was very, very happy with everything that had the care that she had received so far. And I did find it interesting that she was not going to be changing her name. And well, of course, Terry is a name that works for both people. But yeah, it's something that I had assumed that everyone did, and it was interesting to hear about somebody who hadn't. But when it comes down to it, she was saying that her colleagues were really nice and very supportive of her, and I think that's why I'm making this video. Is that I think most of us, when we actually meet somebody who is trans or from any other walk of life, we just get to know them as people, and it's much harder to hold hate in your heart and be willing to misunderstand people once you've actually met and seen their human side. So I did want to share, just because I have given more than 1,000 rides according to Lyft, so I have had a couple of other trans customers, and one of them was kind of very spiritual. She and I talked about crystals and God and stuff like that. So it was interesting because she was a Latina lady, so yeah, I remember that ride was really, really late at night. At the very end of the ride, she was not familiar with the apartment, so she had to call people and figure out, where was the apartment at, and it's just a very normal, misunderstanding that might happen to somebody else, just a human situation in combination with a very, spiritual conversation. So she's the person that I remember as well. We're talking about being gender being a little bit different because of all the machismo in Mexico. And that brings me to my last person who I spoke to. I was giving this teenager a ride to a high school, and it seemed like she was a presenting female, but I wouldn't 100% bet on it because it doesn't really matter. And I was just asking her, hey, you're actually in high school. Are they really talking a lot about, gender being a spectrum and, people's pronouns and stuff like that? And she's like, yeah, they are. Because, there's a lot of people who are, non-binary at my school. So it is part of my everyday experience. And I was just, telling her the same, thing about the right wing does really just a lot of times they've never ever met a trans person, they might not ever meet one, and so it's very easy to misunderstand people that you've never met, that you have no experience with, and and that kind of tying into the current male toxic masculinity movement as personified by Andrew Tate, where, I think a large part of that is women are starting to question the way that things are and why we should be doing things just because we're women, and starting to push back on a lot of these gender roles that did not benefit them in the past, and men are pushing back on this pushback because they were the beneficiaries of misogyny and the patriarchy and stuff, and so they don't like the fact that our understanding of gender is changing, because I think it's tied to the fact that the benefits are also changing, or their role is changing, and they're not going to be able to easily find a woman who's willing to quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom and happily, make their meals at the end of the day and let them not parent, which I think is the way society should be moving. But it's really interesting to see like how the 4B movement has moved into the United States, which, if you're not familiar, it's a feminism movement from Korea, and the B's all stand for words in Korean, but basically no dating, no sex, no childbirth, and no marriage with men, because more so in Korea than even other countries, those things really, are not benefiting the lives of these, smart, independent women. And we're all, women all over the world are questioning the way that they've been socialized to deal with men. It's interesting conversation, interesting movement. It's all kind of tied together. And I've been meaning to do this video for a while, and today's when I had the teenager in my car, so I thought, okay, this is my chance to post a video and hopefully give you guys, at least, even though you may not know a trans person, at least you can hear about my experiences and hear about what my interactions have been. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.